Oh, how fun. It has been a while since we sat down and chatted like this, 8 months actually since my last Q&A. So I thought it would be fun to sit down, chat together, grab yourself a cup of coffee. Maybe you're working on Christmas decor. That's great too. But you could just have this playing in the background, kind of podcast style today. So I had asked over on Instagram for some questions and you guys had a lot of them, which is amazing. So we're going to go through as many as we can here. I actually have an appointment here in about an hour and a half, so I can't sit down too long, but we'll go through as many of these as we can. And starting off here with a fun one, your opinions on young marriage. So I got married just a couple months after I turned 20, which I think nowadays would be considered really young. My grandma actually was 20 also when she got married. My mom was 18. Mom, were you 18 or 19? One of those. I think she got married at 18. And Josh and I have talked about this a lot actually. These days we're seeing a lot of people like in their 30s and still single. And it can be so beautiful either way. But I would say if the person is mature enough and they have found the one, I would definitely consider any time after they're probably 18 or so. What are your thoughts on that? I wish we could have this like be a two-way conversation and I could also hear your thoughts. So feel free in the comments below to also let me know your thoughts on any of these questions that I'm going through today. I would love to hear your opinions as well. Okay, encouragement for those who don't feel that their lives are aesthetic or curated. They don't have to be. Having an aesthetic life or home or whatever does not equal joy. And there's definitely parts of my life and home that are not aesthetic or curated. That's fine. I find a lot of joy out of trying to put things together like that. It's almost like a form of art, if you will. So let's say my whisk breaks, which it recently did. I can go and buy one that I think looks cute in its place. Of course, within reason. Some things can be insanely expensive. This room, when we redid it a couple years ago, I just tried to be mindful. And honestly, it's still not done being furnished because of that. I'm just picky with what I put in. I'd rather wait a long time to finish something than to put something in that's not my style or that I'm not super happy with, because then I feel like I'm spending money on it twice. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I would feel. You don't have to have a curated or aesthetic home in order for it to be the best atmosphere, a welcoming space, and all of the more important things. How do you substitute sugar with honey in recipes? Equal amounts as the recipe says. So I've talked about this probably more on Instagram than on here, honestly, but how we've been really, this year we have really taken some steps away from sugar in so many things. It's been really eye-opening and actually, wow, we could do a whole video on that. But no, I don't usually do equal amounts. I'll play around with it, and as you do, you kind of learn. So it makes a difference what the recipe is. Is it more like a pudding type thing? Is it a cake? Are you using fresh milled flour? Is it a sourdough recipe? Are you doing just plain all-purpose? All those things can play into it. But as a rule of thumb for myself, I found honey, we usually do half the amount that it calls for the sugar. So if the recipe calls for a cup of sugar, I would do like half a cup of raw honey. And with that, I don't find that it messes with the consistency too much. We do use a raw honey that's pretty thick. So I know some of the more liquid honeys, you might want to just put in a little bit more flour, but that's been working really well. Honey is sweeter than sugar. And so there's definitely that, but also I prefer recipes not to be so sweet. And if you slowly start adding less sweeteners, your family probably will not notice. And you honestly oftentimes don't need as much sweetener as it calls for. Do you have a lot of close friends or spend a lot of time with them? I am so grateful. And there was another question somewhere about how it was moving here and if there was times of loneliness. Yes, there was definitely times of loneliness early on. And especially since I was diagnosed with a bad case of Lyme soon after moving here, it really impacted how much I was able to go out and about and even meet people and all of that. So it was some really lonely times. But I prayed and prayed for close friendships. I wanted like a David and Jonathan friendship, like Anne of Green Gables type bosom friends. And the Lord has provided. I would say I have a handful of really close friends. I'm so grateful for them. And then a lot of friends, but that aren't necessarily in that like bosom friend category, but so grateful for them. As far as how much time I spend with them, it varies. I don't see all of them equally. Some of them I see once a week. Some of them it's more like every other week, even every few weeks. But it's great that you can still communicate even when you're not seeing each other face to face, especially since a lot of us are in similar seasons of life and motherhood and keeping busy that way. What do you use to edit your photos? Your content is amazing. Thank you so much. I find a lot of joy in the quality of things. So I normally on YouTube and Instagram will use my camera, which that was asked a couple times, I believe, what camera I use. It's a Canon EOS R6 Mark II. And I love it. And then I edit my photos in Lightroom. How do you stay so fit as a mom of 5? And how do you balance meals? That's another pretty common one. So how I stay fit, honestly, I don't have any like hack or secret or product to sell you. It's just working out and eating well, specifically focusing on low sugar and high protein. That will go a long, long way. And there's so many other things like drinking a lot of water, getting enough sleep, all those things play into it, but those are kind of the two that I would point out. As far as balancing meals, I usually start with the protein of that meal and then build around that. With a hardworking farmer husband and growing kids, we definitely do not go carb free, but I try to make sure that they're healthier carbs. And so we'll usually have like a protein, a veggie, and a carb at pretty much every meal. They're just put together differently. How do you manage to spend quality time with all your kids? Okay, a lot of these I'm just reading for the first time, so answering them on the fly. If I really sat down and thought of them, maybe I could give you better answers, but this is what we have time for today, so we're gonna go with it. I try to just think of it through the day, like, oh, I'm making granola, so which kid is near me and hey, do you wanna help me make some granola? Or just kind of singling them out as it works out in my day, but also personally, I don't remember a lot of times that it was just me and my mom. It was usually me and my mom and my sister. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. So a lot of the time I feel like we are in a group. It isn't just one-on-one, although I do think those times are important to make sure that everyone is heard and seen. And if you're noticing one of the kids pulling away, then to definitely single them out, have a sit down, talk with them, see what's going on, what's bothering them, all those things. And that can go really far as well. What do you do for oral hygiene for your family? It's a tooth powder that we've been using for a while instead of toothpaste. That's honestly the biggest thing. Probably a lot of people would have very big opinions on this, but I do not floss my teeth because I've had 3 times that a filling has come out while I was flossing. And so I just use a toothpick to clean between my teeth, and that seems to work well. We do not use like mouthwash, so I would say it's pretty simple. I've heard about tongue scraping being really good, so I've thought of giving that a try. Sourdough, does it have to double before making a loaf? Unless it's a discard recipe, you will get the best rise if you do let it get really bubbly and at least doubled or sometimes even almost triple the size. Best way to save money on groceries? Buying in bulk, buying in season, and doing as much as you can homemade from scratch. And then I should also include, there's a bunch of like, if you shop at like a Ben & Dent or an Aldi, like finding the stores near you where you can get things for the best price, but don't compromise quality for price. How to handle overwhelm when the day is chaotic. Definitely have those days. I would say simplify. So let's say I have this day planned out to a T and we wake up in the morning, I'm woken maybe by a crying baby, the toddler is begging for breakfast before I'm fully awake, and things just kind of are falling apart one thing after the next. You start making that breakfast and the bowl breaks, and you know how some mornings go. I think for myself, the best thing to do is just to slow down. And honestly, for me, it helps sometimes to pull out the camera and take a picture because that really helps me to see the beauty in the moment away from like the emotion of it. So then it's like these cute little kids and we're making breakfast and all of that. I don't know, that could be very like personal to myself, but that's something that really helps me. Making it as quiet as I can. So even if I'm playing music, you would think the music would be calming for myself. I find sometimes like that's just another thing that my mind is trying to keep track of. So turning that off. And then of course, if there is the option for the kids to go out with their dad, which that is a benefit of living on the farm, that sometimes that is an option, and just having a little bit of time not to get on Instagram or to turn on something audio, because again, that really stimulates me, right? But to just be quiet, to sit and be still, spend time praying, asking God for that grace and strength, and that goes really far. And I would say that's kind of how I handle it when the day is chaotic. Put aside the things that don't have to be done that day. But honestly, when the day starts off feeling chaotic, it doesn't have to define the whole day. It can change. So knowing what those steps need to be for you in order for you to find that just like peace of mind again and ready to serve your family. It doesn't have to take the whole day. It can just be, in an hour or two, you might be feeling completely different if you handle it. If you just push it aside and aside and aside, then it builds and builds and builds, and it can affect the entire day. Do you want to sit with mommy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just changed my battery and somebody came to say hi. Can you tell them hi?
I.
Hi. Good job. Are you playing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tractor, I know. Every day you would like to ride the tractor, right? Maybe you can find your ball.
Mom.
Yeah, that would be nice. Oh, such a little sweetheart. Okay, let's get back on track here. Is the life you are living now what you were dreaming of when you were younger? No, I actually laugh at this so many times. So growing up, I pictured myself, so I loved playing the violin, I loved playing classical music, so more like an orchestra instructor, or a like high businessman or something like that. I did always picture myself to be married and have kids, so that part of it is, but as far as the location of that is very different, and a lot of the details surrounding that, but I would not trade it for anything. I have so many times been so grateful that this is how God worked it all out, and He knew best all along. And I can't think of a better place now to raise our children. And yeah, so grateful that it all worked out this way. Does your husband outsiders that help with the fields and dairy farm? I'm guessing that's supposed to say have outsiders that help. So here and there is an Amish neighbor that helps with a couple milkings a week. His dad still helps with the feed a lot of the time. And then there's some field work. So we don't own a combine. So things that need to be combined, somebody will come in to haul manure on the fields. Somebody will come in for a couple things like that. But as far as day to day, the most consistent would be his dad and then that Amish neighbor that helps a couple milkings a week. What time do you get up in the morning and what time do you have breakfast? It varies. So ideally, I would get up at 5 when my husband gets up, and I would get a bunch of stuff done before the kids wake up. That's not reality and hasn't been for a while. I would say now I get up more like 6:30 to 7, somewhere in there. And I don't set an alarm because I have found that as I'm working through some of these health issues, which I've not said it on here, but my doctor that I had for, 10, maybe 11 years, he was like a grandpa to me. He was so talented and was able to help me with so many things. Like anytime something came up, the Lord just used him so powerfully and was such a tool in my health journey. He passed away about a year ago now. And so it was a couple days before Christmas last year. And so that has been really, really hard, just feeling like you have to start up from scratch again. Finding someone that can work with you. Nobody knows how my body responds to things like he did. And so that has been a really difficult journey for me, but just trusting the Lord that like this doctor was never my healer. It's always been God, and He can guide me. And we are making steps in the right direction, but it is taking time and requiring a lot of grace. So all that to say, I get up now around that time. The older kids are almost always awake by then, the little ones not necessarily, but that's when I get up, and then I try to have their breakfast ready around 8. Good day from Australia, Steph. Hey, that's so fun. I love hearing what countries you guys are from. Do you have a cookbook? If not, are you planning on one? I've answered this question so many times, but no, I don't have a cookbook yet. Yes, I would love to do one sometime. It's been on my dream list for years, but we shall see when or if that actually happens. What homeschool curriculum do you use and you like doing year-round school? Year-round school is to be decided. This is our first year of doing it, so we're not even a full year in. But as far as the curriculum we use, I've shown it on here quite a bit, but I recently been getting a lot of questions on that. So I did just want to throw that in this as well. So this year, and it varies from year to year, but this year we're doing Campfire curriculum, which is like unit studies. Love them so much. The Good and the Beautiful for some things, teaching textbooks for some things. And then, is that it? We're doing Abeka's Bible memory flashcards. Oh, and then Fix It grammar. Where did you get your apron from? I've had that apron for years. I think I got it off of an Etsy shop, but I've tried to find it after and I can't find it. So I'm guessing whatever seller is not on there anymore. Somebody else is asking about our homeschool curriculum and how to teach our kids to read. So we've done a couple different things, but I would highly recommend the How to Teach Your Kids to Read in 100 Easy Lessons or something like that. I will try to link that one for you down below, but that has been a really good one and I would recommend it. It's also really easy to follow. It's one of those that says like, say this to your child. So you literally are just pretty much reading it and then letting them answer. I'm curious if William is talking yet. How you started teaching words to little ones, just talking to them. You saw a minute ago here how he's definitely picking up a lot. It seems like almost every day he says a new word now, which is so fun. The other day I got to say, I love you. It was so cute. So yeah, he's definitely catching on so quickly these days. But I would say if your kid isn't talking by the time when everybody says they should, I would not let that alarm you too much, at least not for a little while, because a lot of those milestones, they'll cross them when they're ready. There are times, of course, when you do need to seek help, but I wouldn't get too flustered just right away. Would love to see your bedtime routine with your kiddos. Okay, I showed that not that long ago, sometime this summer, so go back and look at that. How did you manage making meals and being productive while sick during pregnancy? I would not say I was productive whatsoever, aside from growing that precious baby, but being so sick. And for those of you that are new here, I would have what lines up most with hyperemesis gravidarum, but since I've been about 10 years old, I cannot throw up. So I will gag and gag and gag, but I cannot actually throw up. And so that's both a blessing and a curse when it comes to severe morning sickness, because one, I did not have to be hospitalized because I was not dehydrated because I couldn't get rid of it. But two, what I wouldn't have given for the relief of actually being able to throw it up instead of just gagging. But it was down to pretty much I was on the couch for 9 months. Stairs were hard, simple things like that would just trigger that gag reflex. So all that to say, meals were very, very simple. Sometimes my mother-in-law or my sister-in-laws would bring food. Friends sometimes dropped off food. And yeah, it was pretty much all I did was try to scrimmage a meal together and make sure everyone had clothes to wear. And then the rest of the time I was on the couch. Wow, so many good ones. Where do you buy your einkorn berries? So I actually have not tried einkorn berries. I'm fairly new to milling. Pretty much what I use all the time is hard white wheat berries, and I just get them at a local Amish store that you can buy them in bulk. Somebody's asking for an update on my health. I'm not sharing the details of it right now until I'm hopefully on the other side of it. I have before online, and I know so many people are well-meaning, then there's other people that are not well-meaning, and I just find that for myself, health, the details of it are best shared afterward, just for my own privacy and even like mental well-being. What brand is your juicer? It's the Nama J2. I think that's what it's called, a Nama J2. It's definitely an investment. We purchased it with some Christmas money last year, but it is so good. I've never had a juicer that good and would highly recommend, especially if you have, I know with Christmas approaching, sometimes people will give cash or you'll get gift cards. That would be something to keep in mind for that. What is your favorite Christmas tradition in your family? Oh, I'm so excited for all things Christmas. But one of our favorites, I think if you would ask our kids, they would probably all hands down say favorite is sleeping around the Christmas tree the night before Christmas. That's always such a sweet kind of sentimental time. And then growing up, my family also had a really fun Christmas tradition where Christmas Eve for dinner, all of us would make an appetizer. So for a while, the rule was you had to make something you've never made before, which is fun. I think in later years, we've sometimes compromised on that a little, but that's a really fun one, especially if you have a little bit older kids as well. Would Josh ever do a YouTube chat on marriage and parenting? Honey,
Yeah.
question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Would you ever do a YouTube chat on marriage and parenting with me? Possibly. Okay, possibly. Maybe if you ask enough. How do you deal with different expectations and opinions from others, specifically mothers? Okay, great question, and one that I wish I would have taken more seriously as a young mom. I know that especially when you are new to motherhood, it can feel so overwhelming, everybody's opinions. And the thing is, everybody says their way is the only way, but I would just encourage you to do your own research and follow your gut instinct, and then don't listen so much to what people are saying online or even people in your real life that you don't really know, but seek out the people that you admire, that you love, and that you trust, and ask them if you are needing opinions and advice on how to do things, and then let the rest of it kind of slide off your back, because you are your kid's mom and you are their mom for a reason. And I think a lot of times we make it harder on ourselves, and in turn, it actually makes it harder on our kids if we are too tied up in what others' opinions are on how we're doing things instead of just doing what we know is the best way for our kids. I was wondering if you went to university and if you liked studying or not. Nope, I never went to university. I'm laughing because I always said in school my favorite subject is recess. And then later when we started homeschooling, I would offer my mom so many things. I can wash the windows, I can sweep the floor, I can bake cookies. Like, what do you want me to do so I don't have to do math? So I wouldn't really say I was much of one that loved studying. I think there's definitely a place for it. My sister-in-laws, actually, multiple of them have been in college and stuff. And I think that's awesome. We need those people, but I don't think everybody has to in order to be successful. More about your farm operation. How big is it? What type and how many animals? And do you sell crops? So we're fairly small. I think right now we're milking around 70 cows. And we don't sell the crops. It's basically just feed for the cows. So it's pretty small, and we mostly have dairy cows, and then the rest is like hobby farms. We have 2 sheep, we have 1 little pony, we have a bunch of chickens, we have a bunch of cats, we have, just little bits and things on the side. I'm curious, who's looking after your children when you're cooking long hours? Well, so it depends. The older ones, they just love to go out and ride the pony or build something or make teepees in the woods or, all these things. The younger ones, either nap time, sometimes they're with Josh, a lot of the time they're just playing in a different room, playing bricks or dolls or tractors or whatever. So they're around, just not in the camera's shot. What kind of church do you attend? We attend a non-denominational church. How to deal with mom guilt. I'm expecting baby number 2 and feel guilty about my firstborn. Oh my goodness, a sibling is one of the best gifts you can give your firstborn, honestly. I know that from my growing up and also what I'm seeing in my own children. So I would say do not feel guilty about that. There will be hard days, but ultimately it's one of the best gifts you can give your kids. How do you make time to film while being a wife and a mom? I'm single and barely have time. Well, filming is not for everyone, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to film. You don't have to be online. You don't have, there's so many different things that you could do. But for myself, I think the way I have time for it is just because I'm filming my life. It's not like my life and then I'm filming, right? Aside from, I guess this Q&A you could kind of say is, but it's also not taking up a lot of my time. What I'm normally showing on here, baking, cooking, homemaking, gardening, all those things are things that I'm doing anyway. And so while I'm also filming, I'm also stocking up my freezer and all of those things. So I think that's a big key in how I'm making it work. And then just priorities. I mean, I can't be spending that time scrolling social media or going out shopping. And with some of these health challenges I've had, I have not driven long distances, and by long I mean like even 20 minutes for about 1.5 years now, And so that's definitely also helped me just be more like steadfast at home, and I've grown to really, really love it. How do you manage sickness? Quarantine the child or just brace for impact? Do you mean from like their siblings or do you mean from going out? Because that would be different. It very much depends on what the sickness is. Obviously, anything severe or that could be dangerous, I would definitely keep the child at home. In fact, my rule of thumb, even when it's not dangerous, but it's just miserable. So like before we go socialize with friends, I want them to be fever-free for 24 hours, unless I know that it's from teething, which with babies sometimes it is. And I also want them, if it's like a stomach bug, I want them to not have thrown up for 24 hours. Those are kind of my guidelines that I like to go by. But then obviously if it's something more than just a regular flu or whatever, I think we just kind of do each thing on its own. As far as quarantining from the other kids, if we live in that same house, like honestly, it just kind of passes. They've probably already passed germs before you knew they were sick. But the one exception is newborn babies or any baby under 6 months old. I would say I would definitely not let them hold the baby. I don't let them, share cups and stuff like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how we do it. How to cope with / thrive in the darkness of winter and seasonal depression. Definitely something that I've dealt with. I often say I'm solar powered. I love the sunshine. So winters can be difficult, but there are some things that I've found really help. And I think a big one is just to go with it. Like let it be a slower season for yourself as well. But yeah, just kind of going with the season and embracing those seasons. So lighting more candles in the winter can be helpful. Making sure that you still get outside is huge. Even if it's freezing cold, get yourself some winter gear, some cold weather gear where you can be warm and still go outside. Huge. And then eat nourishing foods, super helpful. Go with your body's circadian rhythm. So being especially mindful in the winter, and I would say all through the year, but especially in the winter as it gets dark earlier, also being mindful of not being on your phone after dinner or especially not right before bed. And the same thing when you wake up, to try to get that morning sunlight first thing. I know, it's what they always say, but it actually does make such a difference. I've even heard people say that like overhead lighting is not good. So you could do that, where you use more lamps and candles and that kind of thing. But those are some things that I have found to be really helpful. And I'm sure there's a lot more. So if you have tips, by the way, anybody listening, leave those in the comments for us. We can all dive into these colder months together. How do you keep your home pest-free like mice? So we had a mouse control person come out a couple years ago, and since then I think Josh has just filled the baits himself, but they set out these, they're just called bait stations, and Josh says you can actually get them on Amazon. So what I love about them, it's in this box. So they come with a key, you can unlock them, you put the bait inside, and then it just has a little like mouse hole essentially on the side. So the mouse can go in, get to the bait, and obviously it takes care of them, but the kids can't get to it. And so that has worked well for us. What do you do to keep your gut healthy? Do you still take the pink drink from Plexus? No, I actually don't take that anymore. Oh, wow. That's actually a big part of all the things I'm going through right now, is trying to get my gut health back. So I feel like, again, we could do a whole video on this, but something that's super helpful is a lot of probiotic foods. So sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt. There's a lot of things like that that can really help your gut microbiome. And then staying away from sugar, again, is super helpful. There are, so many things. Bone broth, super nourishing. Wow, my mind is just racing because I've been reading on this so much, learning so much, but those are a couple things off the top of my head that I would say are super helpful. And there's also, by the way, a test that I did, a digestive, I'm forgetting the name of it. Okay, let me look that up and also put that on the screen. But that is super helpful and gives you a really detailed look at what your whole digestion is like. Is it hard to homeschool younger children while also gardening or keeping the house? My really little ones, I don't force books at all. So a lot of their homeschool, if you will, can be done in the garden or in the kitchen. So that part is pretty easy. But if you're doing a heavier school day type setup, then yes, definitely that plays into it. Do you get stressed while filming if your kids are interrupting? There have been probably a handful of times, but it is something that I hold myself to very, very strictly, because as soon as my kids or my husband become the problem because I need to film, then filming needs to go in my mind. That's just a boundary that I've had really early on. I am not willing to do this at the expense of my own family. So either I have to film a different day then, or I have to change what I'm filming or whatever, but I'm not willing to make my family suffer or like have me get upset because they are messing up my filming, if you will. Okay, fitness routine. Y'all, how long is this? Because I'm gonna have to go soon. My fitness routine. Okay, that's been really fun. Recently, somebody in our church started a women's fitness class, so that's once a week. That's been a really fun addition and kind of accountability thing. But what I've done for much longer, a couple years now, I guess, maybe 2 years-ish, is Train Well. I actually have that app right here on my phone, and basically, you have a personal trainer and they customize the workouts for you. And so that's been really fun. You can tell them I want heavier, I want lighter, I would like to do more strength training, I would like to get my abs back, I would like to work on my posture, I would like cardio, like all those things, and they'll customize the workout for you. And then she actually updates it for me. Basically, then you just go do your workout, and it'll show you like step by step what you are doing, and literally like you can see that done in action. But that has been really fun and has made such a difference for me in my fitness. But you can also find a ton of workouts on YouTube, and even just going for a walk, going for a run, all those things are so much better than nothing. And so if you have a gym near you, like just do something that you really love and stick with it, and that's how results happen. Okay, let's do one more here and then I'm gonna have to run. Advice/thoughts on what age kids should get phones. So kind of what we're thinking is not before they're driving. However, we are actually thinking of getting a Gab phone, which basically, from what I understand, and I need to do a little bit more research, is just texting and calling. So there's no apps, no social media, nothing. To have one of those around, even just with like the farm life, it would sometimes be nice to be able to like communicate with them. So in a sense, almost like a walkie-talkie, but with maybe a little bit further distance and stuff like that. Aside from that, yeah, probably not until they are driving. And even then, I don't know, it's definitely something I think of a lot, is that is the world we're growing up in. And so I want to just teach them, lay the foundation that they know how to use those things wisely. So I hope that answered some of your questions today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.
Golden, golden thing.